Hello and welcome to the Supernatural Track here at Continual. I'm your host, Gail Martin, and tonight we are talking about picks and pans from seasons 7 to 9. So buckle up because a lot went on in those seasons, and we're going to talk about what we loved, what we didn't, and everything in between. But before we start, let's let our wonderful panelists introduce themselves, starting with Carole.
Hi, I'm Carole Stokes. I've been a Supernatural fan since season 3. I started writing fanfic in 2012. And as Ellis Colton, I am an romance writer, and there might be some similarity between some kinds of stories and characters that you might be familiar with.
Okay. Elektra.
I'm Elektra Hammond. I'm a writer and an editor, and I've started watching Supernatural from that very first episode when it aired until that very last episode just made me cry.
And I'm Gail Martin, and Morgan Bryce. As Gail, I write epic and urban fantasy. As Morgan, I write urban fantasy, male paranormal romance. But all my modern day worlds are ones Sam and Dean could walk into and feel right at home. I fell in love with the show halfway through season 11, binge watched 11 seasons for the start of season 12, fell down the rabbit hole and haven't come back up, haven't even tried. So let's start with, let's go around like we have with the other seasons and give us one pick and one pan, and we'll just keep going around and around. Carole, start us off.
All right.
Start with starting with season 7.
Season 7. My first pick for season 7. Oh gosh. I'm gonna go with an emotionally heavy episode that I just loved so much, and it is called Death's Door. Bobby's been shot by Dick Roman. He's in the hospital, and a great majority of the episode all takes place inside his head. He's trying to evade the Reaper after him, and Rufus appears, and they take a little jaunt through his memories. We find out finally, once and for all, why Bobby never wanted to have children, and the great tragedy that informed his life, including when he married the love of his life, Karen, and subsequently broke her heart because she wanted children and he wouldn't have them. But then a demon killed her anyway, so there you go. But it's a beautiful episode. We learn so much more about Bobby. We have a beautiful moment at the end where his memories with Sam and Dean, and it's just really, really well written, well done. Jim Beaver just knocks it out of the park. So that is my first pick for season 7. Am I doing a pan right away?
Yep.
All right, a pan. Let's go with, man, everybody was excited about this episode, and for me, it was such a letdown. The third episode of season 7, The Girl Next Door. Now, I really like Jewel State. I was a big fan of
Firefly.
Stargate Atlantis. Yes, and Firefly. And she guest stars as a Kitsune. Then we even have a flashback, and I usually love the flashbacks. This flashback was kind of like, okay, so Sam kind of had this crush and he wanted to talk to her, and it turned out she was a Kitsune, and now it's been a million years later and they're grown up. And it just, the flashback left me flat. I didn't care about the Kitsune. And then we have this horrible little thing where Sam lets her live, and then Dean comes back and kills her, and it just lays the basis for this whole new reason for Dean and Sam to not be speaking, and I hated that. And yeah, so I was just not a fan of The Girl Next Door. Your mileage may vary.
Okay. Elektra.
Well, first off, 7, 8, and 9 are like the meat of Supernatural, and it's really hard to find episodes you don't like or you don't find something to like in them. And I just feel I had to say that because
Fair enough.
I was having trouble finding pans. And I found a lot of ones that I liked. So my absolute favorite in season 7 is Time After Time, where Dean ends up going back in time to the Untouchables and just meets Elliot Ness and discovers he was a hunter. And they spiff him up in a suit and make him presentable. And he ends up working with them to track down Kronos, the god of time, and works with Sam and Jody and in the present to solve this thing in the past so that he can come back. And it's a beautifully written episode, and it just shows the strength of the writing, the strength of the acting. Also just how great Jensen looks in a suit. All of it is super. And every time they do time travel, they nail the hell out of it. Pan, how to win friends and influence monsters. There's just too much of Biggersons. It's just, this is where the turducken sandwiches come in, and we begin to see the gray goo in them. And we discover they're trying to turn us into happy cattle who don't care what happens to us. And by us, I mean, people. And, they're trying to track down a monster, but in between, there's all of that going on with Biggersons. And they discover that the borax doesn't work on Dick as well as it worked on the other Leviathans. And then in the end of the darn episode, Bobby's shot leading up to Death's Door, which is just a phenomenal episode. But at the end of the episode, and when they realize that Bobby's taken a bullet, you just want to scream. That broke my heart. So yeah, I would pan it just for that.
Okay.
I won't say it was my favorite episode, but I actually really enjoyed that episode. I love the turducken sandwich and Stone Dean and finding out about
It's
all of
hard to
that. And
find
I even kind of like the Biggersons because we got a little slice of ordinary life for them. Like, what do they do in between cases? Well, they go to Biggersons to have a meal, So point counterpoint.
It's hard to find ones you don't like.
Mm-hmm. So I'm going to go with Shut Up, Dr. Phil as a favorite, mostly because it's got it's got Don and Maggie, Don Stark and his wife Maggie, and they are from it's Spike and Cordelia from Buffy, and just their chemistry. These are two people that have clearly worked with each other before. They know how to play off each other. It's this big inside joke. And I'm not even a huge Buffy fan, but even I recognize that, and the chemistry and the way it played off. And it was a good episode as well. Just watching these two estranged lover witches figure out their relationship. So that was cute. As a pan, I'm gonna go with season 7, Time for a Wedding. Becky, we've seen before. She's a super fan. She's a fangirl. But before this, she was treated with compassion by the script writers. Oh, what a cute little girl, pat her on the head. And while it was a little condescending, she wasn't the bad guy. This steps way over the line into non-con, and she kidnaps and roofies Sam. She's got him tied to the bed. They're going to get, she's going to force him to marry her. And it's not funny. It wouldn't be funny if it was a guy. It's not funny with a girl. And I felt like they really betrayed Becky, and that it was an indignity to all of us fangirls out there who might be a little, over the top in our love for the show, but hey, that's what keeps shows on the air and that's what keeps fandoms alive. And you need people like us, so don't diss us. Now Becky does get a redemption arc. And by the end of the season, she's, straightened things out and we get her back and she actually plays a very important role. But I was very disappointed in them for season 7, Time for a Wedding. All right, season 7 again, back to you, Carole.
So I had that heavy emotional one for my first pick. So my second pick, I'm going to go very lighthearted and go with Party on Garth. It's so funny. Of course, it has Garth, who's always so amusing. I love DJ Qualls. I love Garth. And we have the Japanese alcohol demon. You can only see it when you're drunk. So we get to see Sam and Dean get schnockered so they can hunt this demon. And they're running back and forth to like this sushi restaurant because they've got to get all this, Japanese translated, and they don't know about it's like a soji demon or what, I forget. So they're running back and forth to have this stuff translated, and then they got to go back so that he can like do this Japanese blessing on the sword so they can get the demon. And it's really funny. And Garth gets drunk on one beer.
Doesn't everybody?
And we get to see I think it's one of the first episodes where we really see Bobby as a ghost, and he's trying to, and he, is poking things around a little bit to try and help them. So it's a really fun episode. And, they handle humor so well. So I really like that they figured out a case where it's like, hey, let's have them get drunk and be hilarious. So yeah, Party on Garth. My can will be Adventures in Babysitting, episode 11. Now we had met Chrissy before, and that was okay. She was as a character, she was fine. She and her dad, and he gets killed, but so she has ended up at this hunter school where there's a man and he's got like a few of people, other kids around her age and stuff. And the concept of it is great. They're going to school, they're living in a home environment and all of this stuff, but they're still learning to hunt and everything. That's great. What wasn't great was that he was actually a bad guy and he's using them and all of this stuff. It just was a little tiresome. Chrissy is kind of like too much of the know-it-all kid. They ended up doing this with Claire later down the pike, and it didn't work with her either. She's like too snarky, too don't tell me what to do. The other kids are just like blanks, like we never get any sense of them. And then watching the whole thing just kind of fall apart, like the episode just kind of fell apart for me. So pan on Adventures in Babysitting.
Okay, Elektra.
Slash fiction. This is the episode where Bobby's got Chet tied up, and he is trying to figure out, how do you kill a Leviathan? And he is trying every method he can think of, because, we kill lots of monsters and none of them work. And he's reporting back after each one and none of them work. Meanwhile, he sends, after finding out that they got Sam and Bobby's DNA and they've got duplicates running around killing people, they've decided to send Sam and Dean into hiding, and they get to meet Frank Devereaux for the first time, who is one of my favorite characters. They meet Frank after they convince Frank it's okay. Bobby sent them. Really, it's okay. And Frank destroys all of their cell phones, their laptops, the whole bit, tells them that they cannot drive that Impala because it's just too distinct, and, sends them off to be off the grid, really off the grid, like, people do. And it's a real eye-opener for them. And it's just such a fun thing to have him destroy Sam's laptop and give him one that's safe, and then say, okay, you owe me $5,000. The whole thing is fantastic. And Jodie's the one who figures out accidentally how you kill a Leviathan. And the whole episode is just sort of interesting, including a great, I'm not even sure how you describe it, a couple of scenes in a police station where there are two sets of Sam and Dean. And they're trying to convince the cops that, no, we're the good guys, those are the bad guys, and you have to let us out so that we can help you kill them or else. It's just really, really fun. And in the end, you discover that Crowley wants to team up with Dick, and Dick just doesn't care because, Leviathans, we're just going to kill everything.
Mm-hmm. And how about your pan?
The Slash Girls, which isn't overall a bad episode. No, sorry, the Slice Girls. I'm getting them confused now. It's not overall a bad episode, but the reason I'm not crazy about it is 2 lines. Dean has a daughter. Sam killed her. It just, that could have been such a great redemption arc. Dean has a daughter, and we've taught her how to be a decent human being. And she's out there in the world somewhere, and maybe she'll come back into, no, dead, sorry. Oops. And that really just bummed me out. I mean, she was around for like most of an episode.
Well, for a favorite, I'm going to go with Plucky Pennywhistle's Magical Menagerie. And part of that comes from raising 3 children who all had to go to Chuck E. Cheese for many, many, many birthday parties, their own and others. So I got the joke. I understood the glitter. I think I've had that guy run a birthday party. It was just very familiar territory. And of course, Sam and Dean, that wasn't their childhood. John wouldn't have spent the money for that anyhow, but that was not the suburban childhood that Sam and Dean had. So I thought that was an interesting juxtaposition as well on kind of seeing what they didn't grow up with. And, the whole idea of this wish granting, monster summoning thing that gets rid of bad parents. Yikes. I thought it was a good episode. As far as Pans, it was an important one, but Meet the New Boss. I love Death, the character. I'll just clarify that. I did not like Castiel on his power trip as God. And Dick Roman was not my favorite antagonist. A lot of dick jokes. The actor who played the role did a great job, but on a scale of 1 to 10, the Leviathans just were not intriguing to me as bad guys. So let's flip to season 8, and Carole, start us off.
Gosh, there are some really good ones in here. I think I have to go with LARP and the Real Girl. It's a great episode. We have Charlie, who's a fun character. They run into her. They don't even know what LARPing is. And all of a sudden, here they are with all these people dressed up as elves and trolls. And Charlie's the queen of Moondor. And so it's a whole different world for them. Dean, of course, gets really into it like he does, and he's got a great costume. And by the end of the episode, he's got like all these troll ears on a necklace to show how he's he's beaten all these trolls. It's really fun. The case is not too heavy. Charlie almost gets to get lucky with the beautiful Fae girl. It's just really fun. And at the very end, we get the little dessert portion where we have Sam and Dean actually dressed up to LARP. And Sam's got his face painted and his hair in a pony, and Dean's got like a wig and the troll ears. And they decide they just need to kick back and have a little fun. More power to you guys. It's just, it's a romp, and it's a really
and get
fun.
their Braveheart on.
Yeah.
Okay.
He has to get his Braveheart on.
And your pan.
My pan. Oh, I hate this episode so much. Bitten. Bitten is this, the point of view is like the one of them who's like filming it, and it girl, guy, werewolf, girl, werewolf, um confusion because they're just all running around being really, really bad werewolves. uh the only saving grace to it for me is we get a little outside POV on Sam and Dean, which is really fun because we don't often get that. It's a big thing in fan fiction, but it's not something we really get in the show very much because Sam and Dean are the stars, and so we're always kind of in their point of view and what are they experiencing. So to have somebody watching them and looking at them and saying, they seem a little too close for like just partners and stuff, was really amusing. But oh my God, I wanted to smack that girl. She was, I'm sorry, actress, it's not you. It's the way she was written was so annoying. And when I do a rewatch, I routinely now just blip right over that.
Mhm. That is understandable. Elektra?
Okay, as time goes by, this one's time travel in reverse. We get to meet Grandpa, Henry Winchester. We discover the mystery of why he disappeared on when Dad was just a kid. And we get a really neat big bad in the form of Abaddon. And we learn about the Men of Letters, which is huge, which eventually leads to the bunker. So it's a huge episode. The info about the beginning info about the Men of Letters is really cool. Henry turns out to be kind of a cool grandpa, even if he's sort of a nerd. And he doesn't like those brawny hunters, you know, those Neanderthals. And we get to understand this whole idea about how there were the Men of Letters and there were the hunters, and ne'er the two shall speak because they didn't live in the same world. And it was a really kind of coolish episode. And I will, by the way, freely admit that Carole took my number one choice for bad. I also dislike that episode from the point of view and the whole thing. Yeah, that was a one and done. My second choice is Citizen Fang. Mostly because Benny's one of my favorite characters, and he dies in this one, and it's for no damn good reason. Just because one guy just gets a bug up his butt about, you know, Benny's a vampire and he has to die. I mean, he's working as a fry cook. And clearly that's like terrible. I mean, you know, no one should be allowed to work as a fry cook. Yeah, logic doesn't work sometimes.
Well, for my favorite, I'm going to go with Everybody Hates Hitler. For one thing, we get to see Barney Miller as a rabbi. Okay, I didn't see that coming. Hal Linden plays the part. Then we get Aaron Rose playing Aaron Bass, the rabbi's son, who has a golem. Pretty cool. And if you have not followed Aaron on Facebook to see his videos where he stands back and watches these catastrophic things happen, and he's wearing the sweater from the episode, he has turned like this 2-episode thing into a terrific connection to fandom, and he's just got this great comedic timing. But the Golem and Hal Linden and Aaron, it's just a good solid episode. And you know, the Golem goes after the Nazis, which go Golem. As far as disliked, I got to go with Torn and Frayed. I absolutely hated the Amelia arc. I am still convinced that Sam completely hallucinated Amelia, that she didn't exist, and that this was his way of dealing with the trauma of losing Dean. I know that's not canon, but it certainly has its fair share of fan fiction. And since I don't like the canon of Sam giving up hunting and going off with this chick with whom he seems to have absolutely nothing in common, I'm going to say she was just a hallucination. But yeah, there was a lot of pathos here, and I I think the guys have even said that Amelia thing was just not one of their favorites. The guys being J2. So yeah, that's where I'm parking my pan. Carole, second round.
I heartily support that. So the final episode of season 8 was Sacrifice, and it's just lovely. They're working on the third trial. Dean is called away. We have this terrible moment where Sam has to make this confession before he sanctifies his blood to be able to inject it into Crowley and blah, blah, blah. And he's like, well, what am I going to confess? And then Dean starts going, well, you could confess this and that and the other thing. And none of them are things that were actually Sam's fault. Sam didn't jumpstart the apocalypse like all by himself, and he didn't do, and you just see Sam like crumble as Dean is talking, and Dean's oblivious. But we see Jared give this incredible performance. He's like sucked dry here. He's been doing these trials. They've been sapping him mentally, emotionally, physically. And here he is now like draining blood out of himself to cure Crowley of being a demon. And Dean finds out that completing this will kill Sam. And he kind of like wakes up and he's like, well, that ain't happening. So he races back, he saves Sam, gets Sam to stop the trials. Jared does this incredible, what else is left for me? And I'm a terrible person. And, you don't want me around. Really, you don't want me around anyway. I'm just, and Dean has that great moment where he's like, there's nothing I'll put before us. You are the most important thing in the world to me. And he bandages Sam's hand as they stand in a church. And boy, if that doesn't sanctify their relationship, I don't know what does. So we have this beautiful moment, and he and Sam stumble out of the church, and then you have this gorgeous scene of all these little sparks of light descending, and it's the angels falling from heaven. So, which is a whole kettle of fish, but at that moment, it's just really pretty, So that is just such a beautiful moment in their relationship. And they play their hearts out with it. So I love it for all of that. And for my pan, I'm going with Man's Best Friend with Benefice. Like, who approved this episode? Who looked at an episode where they had a Black woman portray being a dog? Like she was a dog shifter with a collar around her neck, owned by a white man. Like, where did that seem like a good idea? And then they're making jokes about bestiality all through this. And it's so horrible. It is just dreadful. So yeah, that's another one that's on the never gonna watch that one again.
Okay, Elektra.
We need to talk about Kevin. This is where Dean leaves purgatory and we get our first real shot of Benny. I'm going to keep talking about Benny a lot. I am really, really a big Benny fan. And they clasp arms and say goodbye. And, then he comes upon Sam and discovers that Sam has basically abandoned Kevin Tran. And there's, they catch up to Kevin, they find him in hiding, and they discover that his girlfriend's been taken over by a demon, and it just goes downhill from there. It's so bad for everybody else, but we get Benny. They let his girlfriend Channing out briefly, and there's the best line in the entire episode, because Kevin gets to tell her, there's a demon inside you and you're going to your safety school. Because only like really, really geeky smart kids would understand the terror of the idea that you're going to your safety school. No one ever wants to do that. So that is a good way to start the season. For terrors. By the way, all the ones that you guys named for ones you liked were on my damn list. We all agree with a lot of things. For a pan, again, with this one is not, it was sort of on the cusp. The Great Escapist. I on the one hand love Castiel's escape from one Biggerson's to another, and they all look the same. But this is where Kevin has disappeared, and Dean is trying to make Sam okay, and he's just desperately trying to figure things out, and they're all running around, and they found Metatron, and it's a very confused episode for me. And I really didn't, other than Cass blinking in and out of Biggerson's, it really didn't coalesce.
Okay. As far as the one that I liked, I'm going to name Of Grave Importance. We meet Annie Hawkins, who is a hunter, and she's got a lot of moxie. I liked her. She was last seen at a famous haunted house, and they go to investigate. Sam and Dean don't realize that Bobby is haunting the flask. And so we have, we flip back and forth between the present and the past. And I thought it was just a very well done episode. I would have loved to have seen Annie. We only get to see her in this one episode. But I would have loved to have seen more of her. And of course, we get Bobby's growing frustration as a ghost, which frustrated ghosts are never a good thing, because that usually means that they're eventually going to go vengeful. And he's just really annoyed that when people don't understand what he's trying to tell them. As far as my pan, I'm going to go with with Survival of the Fittest, the last episode of the season. Dick Roman as a slimy CEO and corporate billionaire, I could buy. I mean, he played that part so well. The Leviathans as the big bad of the season just never really did it for me. Your mileage may vary, not that they didn't have some cool features and they were monsters who actually looked like monsters instead of being people who were monsters. Just didn't do it for me. And you've also got Cass trying to figure out, is he their friend? Is he too busy being off doing something else? It didn't nail it the way the way most of the season finales nailed it for me. We got rid of the Leviathans. Okay. Well, we're done with that. On to the next big bad. So let's look at season 8. Carole?
Oh, I thought we were in season 8. I thought we were
in season 7.
Oh,
No, that was season 8.
That was
season 8.
because I did Sacrifice and LARP and the Real Girl. I thought we were in
Those were
season 8
season
already.
8.
Okay.
Yeah, those were all season 8.
Yeah.
Okay. So which season are we in?
9. We need to do
Now
9.
we're doing 9.
We did 7 and we did 8. Now we need to do 9.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry about that. All right. Well then, Carole, take us away with season 9.
Season 9.
Oh, that last one was season 7. I get it. It's okay. It was really close to season 8.
It was really close to season 8.
It was almost the season 8.
It was 8
episode.
adjacent.
Yeah, it was
Yep.
8 adjacent. I'm sorry we didn't catch that. It was definitely 8 adjacent.
I'm gonna go with Firstborn. It was I believe the mid-season finale, and basically for one reason, and that is we meet Cain, who is just so solidly portrayed by Timothy Amundsen. Oh my God. Just on the surface level, the man's hair was spectacular. the hair and the beard, but he had such gravity. This was a man who had done terrible things and had terrible things happen to him. And he had kind of carved out now this little pocket of peacefulness that he could just live in. And now it's being invaded and they want the mark of Cain and all this kind of stuff. The scene where Dean is fighting like 6 demons and Cain is just sitting there shucking his corn is just wonderful. So for that reason, and Cain then becomes an important player. Of course, the mark of Cain then gets transferred to Dean, and we have the launch of a whole new part of the arc. But yeah, that portrayal and that character was just fantastic, and that puts Firstborn as a pick for me. As a pan, oh gosh. Oh God, I have to go with Thin Man. Now, I liked the Ghost Facers. I thought they were funny. I liked the 2 previous episodes with them. I know a lot of people don't like them, but I just found them funny and enjoyable. And, I liked kind of the little running gags they had and stuff. But Thin Man is one of those episodes that, like, the story just doesn't even make sense. Okay. So we have this story that doesn't make sense. And then you take the 2 guys who are the Ghost Facers and you have them go through this horrible breakup. Like, why? I hated it. They're both destroyed, and go off alone, like, for the rest of their lives. And I'm like, we have enough death and destruction on Supernatural. I don't need to see that. Like, I wanted them to go off and do their, I hated it.
Okay. Elektra?
For my favorite, Slumber Party. This is more Charlie, and bonus points, we get Dorothy, who turns out is the daughter of L. Frank Baum, who was a man of letters. Who would have thunk that? And they've got the Wicked Witch, slumbering in the bunker, and they screw up and let her loose, and they've got to chase her down. And Dorothy and Charlie end up trouncing off to Oz on an adventure.
Hand in hand.
It's a silly, fun episode. You get to know more about the men of letters. You get Charlie, you get weird things with computers. And when they need to take a break to hang out, what do? They sit around, they watch Game of Thrones on DVD. I mean, it is the best. It is a great, fun episode. And I loved how much it showed us about some of our favorite characters and what they do for fun.
And how about your pan?
The first episode of the season, I think I'm going to like it here. I'm going to pan this because I thought it was super out of character. I realize Dean will do anything for Sam, but tricking him into allowing an angel to possess him, even to heal him, was just plain wrong. And it turned out to just go so badly.
And who could have seen
My
that coming, huh?
2020 hindsight, but it just felt wrong.
Mhm.
And every time I watch it, it bothers me more. So just for that one piece of it.
Okay. Well, for a favorite, and I'm in season 9 now. I am in season 9. I'm going to say Dog Dean Afternoon. Jensen's got such terrific comedic timing. And I also love that for a guy who looks like him, he doesn't stand on, well, I'm a good looking guy. I can't have people laughing at me. I can't do that. That'll ruin my persona. No, he hangs his head out of the car and barks at, and yells at people. He did such a great job of taking on personality aspects of a German Shepherd, because he took a potion so that he could interrogate the only witness to a crime, who was a German Shepherd. And their conversations, you know, his conversations with the dog. And of course, at the very end, the dog is just about to impart this incredible secret and the potion wears off and there's no more. So we needed some levity. We needed a bright spot. And that was definitely it. And I just kudos to Jensen for not standing on ceremony or getting, you know, for being able to laugh at himself. And he does comedy so well. For my pan, I'm going to say Bloodlines. This was one that I think was kind of a soft pilot spinoff. It was something about
Backdoor.
monster families. It just didn't stick. There was nothing about it that was fascinating or interesting or even all that supernatural. And needless to say, it didn't spin off. So, you know, if I'm going to skip something as I'm doing a rewatch, it just seems so disconnected from everything else in Supernatural, that if I've got to skip something, that's what I'll skip. And back to you for our last round, Carol.
The Purge.
Is that a favorite?
The Purge is so fun. First of all, we get to see, we get to meet Donna from North Dakota, don't you know? And she's delightful. She's a great character, a lot of fun. We have Sam and Dean going undercover at this like posh spa. Great fringe benefit is we get to see Sam in like yoga clothing. That was great. I could have watched that all day. So we have a svelte Sam. We have Dean being humorous and getting stoned on the sweet potato pudding because they sedate people with it. We have Donna, and it's just really fun. And the bad guy isn't even like really a bad guy. It's one of those very gray area where the creature has learned how to coexist in a non-harmful way. Now, her brother, unfortunately, takes things too far, and he pays the price, but that she's harmless. And in fact, she's being helpful because she's helping rid, you know, somewhat portly ladies of their excess fat, which is why her spa is so successful. So, you know, it's a bit lighthearted. We have some fun aspects. We, you know, get to ogle Sam. Thank you, Jared. We appreciated that. So the Purge, flipping around, Bloodlines was going to be one of my pans. I'm no angel. I just hated the whole thing where Castiel was human. I don't even know what to say about it. It was bad. It was bad, and I didn't like it. So there you go. That's it. That's all you get.
That's just, oh. I think we're in a lot of agreement on these.
Yeah.
I'm going into pretty deep here. Bad Boys. Only because it gave us a lot of insights into John Winchester's A+ parenting. And we got to meet Sonny and see one of the people that shaped who Dean was and made him the parent for Sam that John wasn't, and showed him what could be done and gave him the sense of responsibility he had, and how he turned away from things he could have in order to make sure he was there for Sam. And it gave you the chasing the ghost was almost secondary to all of the character development we saw in there. And a shout out to the younger actor who played Dean as a young guy, because he really did get the same mannerisms down, so it was believable. And Sonny was just a great father figure, along with Bobby and some of the other people we met along the way that show you just why he's like that. For a pan, Captives, only because it just breaks your heart to discover Mrs. Tran was being kept in such horrible conditions for that long. It makes you understand where Kevin got his gumption to deal with the torture that he stands. And it makes it hard to understand why the Kevin Tran we see later in Apocalypse World was so willing to collaborate with the angels, because he seems so strong in our version. But, you know, writers, sometimes they just don't actually read their own episodes, darn it.
Yeah. Well, you've taken some of my first choice picks and we've gone through a couple of mine. So I'm going to go with Sharp Teeth because we get to see more of Garth. And Sam and Dean don't realize that Garth's been turned into a werewolf. And so when he's gone missing, and when they look for him, they find out that he's found a home with a werewolf group. He's fallen in love with a werewolf girl, but that there's also werewolf politics. And so he's in danger. And so they've got to deal with all of this. And, you know, I like Garth. It was great seeing him. It was great seeing him and Bess together and having this nice little, you know, family unit as werewolves and fuzzy kids and all of this. So, you know, I'm glad that Garth is happy. As far as a pan, I'm going to go with metafiction just on the sheer principle that I deeply dislike Metatron. You know, kudos to the actor for making me hate him so much. Because he really, throughout that entire character's arc, made him loathsome. And the character, Curtis Armstrong, is really, you know, he's played many other roles where that was not the case. But boy, does he nail making Metatron just loathsome. And so I could do without Metatron in any way, shape, or form. Well, folks, we have run out of time. There are always more opinions, and we can trade them in the comments when this posts. But thank you very much for being here with us tonight. And before we go, quick round to say where people can find you online. Carole?
You can find me on Facebook in the continual Facebook group, as well as the SPN TFWNC group that Gail runs. As Ellis Colton, all of my social media links are on elliscolton.carrd.co. My books are available on Amazon and wide at Smashwords, including my newest one, The Case of Thistledown House, where we have two young men fighting forces of evil and darkness, investigating a haunted house.
Well, they say write what you know. Elektra?
You can find everything about me at untilmidnight.com. I mostly concentrate my socials on Mastodon, where I'm Elektra at wandering.shop, and look for us Monday nights from 7 to 8 with #WriteFant, where we ask 4 questions about some random topic, and everybody is invited to join in and have a discussion about whatever topic it is. Look for a new anthology about Jack Chalker's Well World called Permutations, where I've got a new story coming out in May, which we are launching at Balticon. God, I've got to get that straight.
Okay. I'm pretty easy to find at gailcmartin.com, morganbryce.com. If you spell those right, you'll find me on pretty much all of the major social medias. Like I said, I write urban fantasy and epic fantasy and steampunk, but all my modern day worlds are ones Sam and Dean could walk into and feel right at home. So thank you so much for being here. Thanks to all of you for watching and listening. There will be more Supernatural coming up soon, so we'll see you online.